What is going on, everyone? AP over here at Run Pure Sports, bringing to you the Lineup Builder Show. It's Monday. We have two games tonight. Two games that might be, I don't know. We'll see how they go. I mean, everyone was saying yesterday about how bad the afternoon window was going to be, especially like with all the low totals. And I think those games were far more exciting than the earlier games. But again, this is the Lineup Builder Show. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. We appreciate it. We're going to be breaking down the two-game slate. Then at a high level, we'll touch on each showdown slate if we have time. Let's bring in the guys here. We got Statsational, we got Rubio Dimes. Statsational, how was the weekend, my man? How are you doing this morning?
Doing okay. Yeah, I mean, it was didn't get crushed. So not getting crushed in DFS for us is pretty good on NFL because, man, some of those games are pretty top heavy. So it's either you win or you lose pretty badly on some of those millies and whatnot. So not a bad day. Yeah, I agree. But Survivor, are you guys in a Survivor pool?
Oh yeah, we're on the same.
Sweating the Giants at all?
What was that?
Did you sweat the Giants at all?
Oh no, I did not. I had the Cowboys blanket across the board.
Yeah, I had Giants in a lot of large pools, so that was a lot of text messages going around with buddies like, "I'm turning this effing game off," and that's it. So I made one of my friends bet Arizona on the money line at halftime just to kind of reverse mush it, and it seemed to work. So that was the afternoon games were exciting for sure.
I mean, all right, pure chaos. I talked up Jets defense. I liked them because they're like 2,500 or something like that. I mean, was it a bad play? Yeah, hindsight, yeah, it was not a play we liked. But again, short week. I thought we might get like a pick six or something. I thought that was the way the Jets were going to have to score in that game. It is what it is. Cowboys fans are the softest fans out there. And yeah, I'm talking directly to you, VIP. I know you'll see this. You guys are way too soft. So you got a good team. Just you got to bring it in a little bit. You got to bring it in a little bit. Rubio, what's going on, my man? How was your Sunday?
It was good, Coach.
Oh, so, okay. Wait. So he was talking to our guy Stats. I got it. I talked up Jets defense. So I thought that was
wait. Yeah. So no, Friday. So we do the show Friday with JBC and Holden. So we go through all the games on the main slate. So yeah, the Jets or the Cowboys, I should say, definitely surprised me in that one. Like I told Chaos, was not a bet. I didn't like it as a bet. I did like the under, which did not win. I did like the underside of that game just because I just did not think I didn't believe the Cowboys offense was going to be able to score. Like you said, I thought that Jet defense was going to at least keep them in sub 20 points on the game, which is why if I had to take a side, I liked it plus the points because generally if games like that go under, you're going to hit the dog, and when they go over, the favorite's going to win, which is what happened. So it went over and the favorite. So yeah, Cowboys impressed me in that game offensively. We'll see. It's two games in. I am a Cowboys fan, so I am one of those soft fans. I still am not totally sold on that team, but yeah, Cass was 100% correct on that one, and and I missed it. But it wasn't a game that I liked as far as putting money on.
No, and by soft I mean like VIP's yesterday victory lap, and I'm already seeing Twitter, Cowboys the best team in the league, all this stuff, and I'm like, guys. You're like Sats, you're doing it the right way. You know what I mean? Like we can't get ahead of ourselves. Me as a Chiefs fan,
next week?
They play. They
Arizona.
play Arizona. Okay, yeah, short week.
So
that's right.
It's only going to get worse.
I saw the Micah Parsons tweet to Jahan Dotson, so he's saying we're coming. So I was thinking it was the Commanders, but. Hey, I gotta pump myself up. I did tell our guy Gary, huge Commanders fan, when the Broncos went up by 18. I'm like, you gotta bet them, live bet them right now. I'm telling you what I'm seeing from the Broncos right now. Broncos are gonna do what they do, and what happened? They ended up losing. It was just insane. But I digress. Rubio, what's going on, my man? Our guy Kevin K. Fallick. Shout out to you, my man. Incredible week. He had I think a one lineup build, 1,500 in play, turned it into 336K. K. Fallick, my man. Hats off to you today. Rubio, talk to us about that. Talk to us about your week. How's it going, my man?
Kevin, he's celebrating holidays right now. He had a lot of family over. It must have been a hectic time. So I think it was a timely 333K. They're giving out 5 tickets on the show today at 4 o'clock. 333 tickets to members too. I mean, Dave Alec, I've known him for almost 5-6 years now. Oh my God, I'm getting older too. But he's just an awesome. I'm so glad to see him get that hit. Obviously, he crushes. He's been on a heater. He's been on a bigger heater than me. He hit NBA at the same time as I did. He hit NFL preseason for something, and he also just been winning 9-10K in every single entry contest in college football, it seems. And all of a sudden now he rolls it into NFL. I mean, he might be the hottest guy at RPS right now. And Kevin, he's awesome. So I'm very happy to see that. I wanted to beat him out of his 333K. I looked at my phone during the middle of the women's soccer match. I was in Knoxville. I was winning $1 million. It felt great. It was like 230, 245 or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh man, this could be fun. And I lost money on the day, but hey, Sundays are meant to happen. Like Stat said, as long as you don't get crushed, the main team cashed, it wasn't a terrible day, but when I was winning $1 million, it's tough to watch it dwindle down.
I'm with you there. I didn't have enough puka. I did not have enough, after getting done with the morning shows yesterday, I did have this feeling. I'm like, I could see a few of these games in the afternoon just like completely blindside us and nuke. And it wasn't the Broncos game. I did not see that game putting up 70 points or whatever. I'm not talking about that one. I was talking about the 49ers one. And it was just looking at how many plays they ran last week against the Steelers. I mean, it was actually an insane amount of plays. And then it's just these two teams know each other, but they're both offensive minded in a way too. So, and then it's just Puka, like what an absolute insane role that he has right now. I did not have enough of him. I honestly had him under projected. So I'm with you though, Stats. I returned. I was just talking to Tony about this. I returned like 65%. It kind of feels like a win sometimes when you're at least getting something back and not getting fully scooped, especially with how I play. I play pretty aggressive. We talk about risk aversion quite a lot on this show, and I have a pretty aggressive style. If I'm not hitting, it's usually a painful week. So again, I think it was a fun week too so far. I'm feeling pretty good about my Chiefs in the AFC West. The AFC West is what it is. It's the key Chiefs to lose, like it always is. The Chargers this team, they have all the makings of just being so elite, and they just continue to underwhelm. It just blows my mind. But we do need to get into the 2-game slate. We have Sabersim pulled up. Sabersim are partners. I think we are going to run NFL 17 for one more day. I sent Captain a message. I go, get it back up, get it live one more day. It was such a big weekend, huge weekend for RPS. Redmond, I think we're talking about Redmond almost every show now. Guy was sweating a milli yesterday too. I was pulling for him. He needed a little bit more Waller. Didn't get it done, but still had I think a 6-figure day again. Shout out to you. Shout out to Kate Fallick. Just monster week. Many other screenshots that we saw as well in the Discord. We got Sabersim up though. NFL 17. Go and subscribe. Hit the Sabersim membership. Let's walk through this 2-game slate tonight. We got low totals, a lot of defense. We got the Saints, Panthers, Browns, Steelers. Rubio, let me hand it off to you. Let's walk through our base build that we've been doing on these shows.
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting slate because if you break it down at all, you'll notice one thing. Salary almost doesn't matter at all. You might have to make one sacrifice really, but you'll see here when we go to quarterback, right? All 6K or lower, right? Running back outside of Chubb, not too pricey. Wide receiver, there is literally no spend up outside Chris Olave. And I don't even like Pickens or Mike Thomas either. So, and then tight end, no one above 5K. And defense, 3K, right? Literally, you can play almost whoever you want. And you're going to see a lot of that. And that's why when I went into my settings, I did a podcast with Bobby last night, which is free on Apple and Spotify. You guys can go ahead and download that. Make sure to subscribe to our channel. Give us 5 stars on the Run Pure Sports podcast. But basically, we were talking about it all night. Like, you have to leave a low min salary for whatever you're running. You can't. It has to be almost 41,000 because I have a lot of builds where I see like 4K left. I'm like, oh wow, this makes a ton of sense. But if you do want to force in Chubb a lot, you can probably raise that up. I just ran this set last night, and the base build is giving me a lot of Derek Carr, a lot of Deshaun Watson as well. I think he'll hit here in just a second. Deshaun Watson. It's a lot of overstacks, too, on a 2-game slate. I think that the most chalk build, if we ran it without, like, uniques, let me see here. If we just did that, it is a really correlated build, but it might be duped like 100 times tonight. I'll get that one up for you right now, AP. But if you want to talk about this one, like you'll see this lineup and you'll be like, wow, how does that lose? And I can't see how it does.
Yeah, well, he's running that. So let me kick it over to Statsational. One thing that I've seen JBC in you talk about a little bit in chat, I think more so JBC, but not, especially in NFL, not leaving a lot of salary on the table. However, there are times where you kind of throw that out of the window. How do you approach a situation like tonight's 2-game slate where everyone does seem a little underpriced? The pricing really seems like it's priced for like a NFL Sunday main slate.
Yeah, so a good way to do it is if you take an optimizer, like you look in the optimizer and then just run it like you just did with no randomness, no uniques or anything like that. Just run it like for 100 lineups. And see, are you getting a big chunk of lineups that are, 40,000, 42,000, 43,000, whatever that case may be? And then that, a lot of the optimal lineups are coming in way below salary. So that'll give you a pretty good indication that you can't be at 49K on the min. You're going to have to drop it into the low 40s, if not lower than that, and maybe no min. So that's a way I like to just go ahead and like start the session, just click it and see where I'm at with all sports. I'll do that in if it's not a full slate or something like that, just to get an idea of where the optimal lineups are going to be, and then I know I need to put the salary lower. The other thing that you're going to want to do here on a 2-game slate is you're going to play players against the defense as well. So you could probably play 2 players against the defense in a 2-game slate, which is totally fine. So just be aware of that. The likelihood that at least one player against the defense is in the winning lineup is fairly high. So make sure you do that.
Yeah, really good points. I tend to on slates like this, I focus more on my own projections, and I obviously like to see where we're at, where the industry's at, and then again, when I'm running 3 to 5 lineups, I like to build up my game scripts, and so oftentimes, just with what Stats said, I will, in Sabersim specifically, other optimizers might be different, I bring that correlation slider all the way to 0. I don't want it to factor in the negatively when we're playing a defense against a player. So I'm 100% on board with you there, Stats. Rubio, what build were you talking about? Was it this one right here?
I found it up here. It's like build number 6. I can't even lie. I don't even want to lie to the people. I'm probably running this one in single entries. Let me find it here. It is. I had Deshaun Watson in here. It was so simple, so amazing. Correlated perfectly across the board. Yeah, it's this one, but it has Elijah Moore. So I'm trying to find it. But I don't see how it can lose. I don't. You say no one loses that NBA DFS.
Where's it at?
No one loses that NFL DFS with this lineup here. Oh, where is it? Where is it? Oh, this is going to be fun. I'm not zoomed out, so I can't see a million things. I just saw it.
I'm looking. I don't see it yet.
It's a triple brown. You know what? You know how we can do this, AP? With lovely Sabersim's magnifying.
There you go.
Why didn't I use that? I guess I'm not the brightest IQ.
I mean, you said I don't know how it's going to lose, and I'll tell you, hold my beer. NFL DFS, man.
Yeah. Wait, hold on.
I mean, when a Commanders Broncos game goes for a 70 piece, anything can happen.
Wait, no, that's not it. Well, anyway, it's Jamal Williams over Najee Harris in this one, and yeah, that fits.
Okay.
I don't know why it's not there.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like that. I think, when I look at these 2 games, let's dive into it. So let's start with the Saints-Panthers. Bryce Young, already a comment there. Bryce Young is the GOAT. I mean, he might be the GOAT, but isn't their offensive line kind of in shambles? You got this Nash Jensen guy starting out of North Dakota State, or projected starter. They like to run the ball. Panthers ran the ball 32 times against the Falcons. They were fine running the ball, averaged almost 5 yards a carry. I mean, this just seems like a game, in my opinion, that isn't going to be. I mean, both these games are on paper do not look very good. But Rubio, let's start with you. What's your thoughts? Let's start with the Saints Panthers. Give me your breakdown on this game. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, so obviously both divisional games, both familiar history with each team, right? I think the Saints-Panthers game has a better chance to shoot out per se, but they both have totals under 40.
Can you highlight the that game too? Just the players from that game.
Yeah,
I like doing this. Like when I go game by game, like I'll pull up the Print Factory or one of our shows. The betting show on Friday, and with how I clone a bunch of builds and I title them. I have different titles for them. Maybe one's Print Factory. Maybe one's the JBC and stats, and I build out these game scripts with it just to see and play around with what the builds look like. Something that you guys can do too if you have the Sabersim subscription and are doing this. But no, can you click on the magnifying glass just for the Saints and Panthers so we only see their players?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, yep. And then go to all.
Yep.
Perfect. Just because the prices are interesting. So yeah, continue on though.
Yeah, so obviously Chris Olave is going to hit at an extremely high clip, and any contest you do, I would be shocked to see him less than 75. And they have him at 70-ish right now, which I don't know, it seems a little bit low just because the fact that you can literally play anyone. Jamal Williams took almost all the work basically in the backfield, a much better matchup outside, not in the pass funnel of the Titans or anything. Jamal Williams and Chris Olave obviously check the two boxes what you're looking for. Then Miles Sanders had a ton of the work for Carolina, but obviously Chuba Hubbard's there. I think that you can get different in this game just a little bit if we get news that DJ Chark is out. So if you see here, I'll unclick that eyeball. DJ Chark's status is a little bit of a big deal to me because we might have the potential to get a little bit sneaky with these Panthers wide receivers, not just Thielen or Mingo, but the guy who led the wide receivers in targets last week was Terrace Marshall Jr. Hell, even LaVisca could be given a case in large field tournaments, but I set a filter at 6 right now. But Chark is one of the news that we need. But Marshall is a big play guy. I think there's a couple big play guys here. Obviously, Rashid Shaheed, you know him. And then a red zone threat like Jawan Johnson. There's a lot of guys who could have fantasy impact. And I haven't even touched on Mike Thomas.
Yeah, really good. And the other guy, too, is Hayden Hurst. And we've seen these young quarterbacks really rely on the friendly targets. Hayden Hurst, 7 last week, 5 for 7, 41 in the tutty. Stats, let's go to you. What's your thoughts on this? I think it's JBC's a big Panthers guy. Tough spot here, in my opinion, against a team with a little bit, some veteran leadership there in Derek Carr. How do you see this one playing out?
I mean, I've got a bet on Carolina from early in the week, so I got Carolina. I believe it's +3. I didn't look. I gotta look at it, but yeah. So I mean, I took Carolina on the game. I think it's probably the game goes kind of grinding type of game. I'm trying to go through the props. I like to do that, especially on these short slates, the showdowns, or in this case, a 2-game slate. Look at the props and see if I can garner anything from there, passing yardage and whatnot. On the game, but the one prop that I did like was actually on Juwan Johnson. So I have the over on his reception. So if I like his over there, I'm probably going to want to be maybe just a little weighted on him in this game. Yeah, I mean it's tough. I hate this game on paper. I hate both of these games on paper. Quite frankly, I look at my positional matchup charts. And just nothing really stands out in either one of these games. I mean, maybe a little bit of an edge for the Saints as far as from a passing standpoint, but yeah, the game doesn't scream a lot of fantasy points. Which are we going to be staring at another prime time where defenses become the of course in the 2-game slate we don't have to worry about defenses being the captain or anything like that, but on the showdowns for sure. Yeah, I think I don't know. If you can hear the confusion in my voice, that's very great. This one is it's a little baffling to me, and so I'm going to really have to tear into this one all afternoon.
Yeah, I see this being a grinded out one too. So when you just look at it, the Falcons had a lot of success on the ground against the Panthers. The Saints, a balanced offense. I think when you think about what the Saints want to do, I think they want to have a truly balanced offense. They want to run the ball. They got Jamal Williams, a competent back. And the problem in coming into this, and I think why we're so focused on Olave, Michael Thomas, Shaheed, that dude is a speedster, definitely in play. The problem is when you look at week one, you just can't run on the Titans. We saw it yesterday, another chalk running back, just absolutely busted. You got to throw the ball on them, and that's what we saw. Despite having no success on the ground last week against the Titans, averaging 2.5 yards per rush, Jamal Williams got 18 attempts still for 45 yards, 2 targets. I really like him in this spot. And then I like one of Olave or Michael Thomas. But then on the other side, I think the Panthers, that when you look at what they did last week, I think they want to do whatever they can to protect Bryce Young, lean on the run a little bit there too. They ran the ball 32 times, 18 with Miles Sanders, 9 with Chuba Hubbard. Bryce Young, 20 for 38. Hopefully he can have some better success through the air. But without DJ Shark there potentially, I don't know. It's Adam Thielen and Hayden Hurst and Jonathan Mingo. Not a crew that is too appealing. So I see it being a boring kind of grinded out game with you guys. I do like Rubio, your contrarian take. And again, we're kind of nibbling here at outcomes at 2 games that have totals posted or projected to fall under 40 points. So it's not like we're expecting anything too exciting tonight. I like the running backs though, and then I do like Hayden Hurst quite a bit. Do you want to start building out a script here, Rubio, as we're going?
Yeah,
start adjusting some projections. What's your guys' thoughts on? All right, let's do this by committee. Chris Olave, what about? All right, so he nuked week 1. He's going to be 80% owned tonight, just from a pricing standpoint. What if we make a stand here? What if we say, all right, we like Carolina and we think that they grinded out to get a win here. I think for Carolina to win or cover, they got to do it on the ground. It has to be a kind of a boring game. What if we go under on Olave, over on Jamal Williams? What's your thoughts on that? Go start with you, Rubio.
Okay. I think I'm cool with that. It'll be hard
unless you like Olave. I just think if you're taking a shot, or at least like me building out if you're running 150, you're not going to fade Olave in this spot. But if you're running one lineup and you're trying to get different and create some scripts, I don't mind under projecting him in a spot like this, just because, if he doesn't get that deep ball and if they keep everything in front of us, he could underwhelm, and that could bring other builds into the equation.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of like one of those things where, what do you do with Mike Thomas then? Because those are the 2 highest projected wide receivers on the slate right now. How low do you want us to go?
I think we get. Here's the other thing is I think we see more points in the Browns-Steelers game. Surprisingly, I think the Steelers bounce back, and I think Deshaun Watson is I think he's going to keep them in it. I like the over in that game. I just do. And so a little bit different than you, Rubio. I just think we see more running in this first game. But again, we'll do it by consensus, so we don't have to under project them that much.
No, I just want to know because even when we under project them, they'll still hit. How far do you want us to go on these wide receivers for the Saints?
Yeah, so that you bring up a really good point there, and Big D talks about this all the time. We don't want to X them out, and we don't want to take them down 4 or 5 points. I think you take them down 20%, 25%, right where you're at. And if they're still hitting, it really solidifies that they're probably a good play and one that we want to get exposure to. Stats, you got any take on that? What's your thoughts on bumping down in this script that we're running, trying to get a little bit different off the chalk? And when we ran it, I think Olave was hitting 80, 90% of the builds. What's your thoughts on bringing them down, manually adjusting them like that?
Yeah, I like Carolina, which probably means this game is a low scoring, grinded out type of game if Carolina is going to cover it. And yeah, if that's the case, then I don't mind that. I would say 20 to 25% lowering it is probably good there. I don't know if I would jack Williams up in like if you think it's, I don't know if it's necessarily going to all go to Williams. So I would kind of just maybe, if my script was I like Carolina to win and grind it out, maybe I just reduce the passing on the on New Orleans side, kind of leave everything else on New Orleans side status quo, and maybe just bump up a little bit of the running attack on the Carolina side of the game. And maybe that's how I would go about it, and just look for a game that's going to be, in the teens, low scoring, and both teams kind of maybe just running the ball a little bit more than we expect, and maybe or running the ball, at least on the Carolina side, better than expected. I mean, when you look last year, I mean, it's a little troubling because looking at last year's numbers, I mean, Carolina was really bad against wide receivers, so they're going to have to step up and be a totally different team than they were a year ago. And New Orleans kind of across the board did well. I'm looking at my positional matchup chart that I post in the on the website on Run Pure. Carolina was pretty good against wide receivers last year. So I think, and quarterbacks. So I think it's going to, for Carolina to have success, they're going to have to run the ball. So I think that's the route that Carolina gets to win. So I would jack up the Carolina running attack if I liked Carolina in this game.
Yeah, really good points there. The other thing too, just doing these lineup review studies that I do, the past showdown optimals, you can go look at it over at Rumpier Sports. Today's will be up later this afternoon. So the Saints are historically one of the more tilting teams out there. You get Taysom Hill vulturing, goal line touchdowns, taken away also from potentially Derek Carr. They do weird things with their wide receivers. That's kind of where my mindset is, just going back off that base build that we ran and how much exposure we were getting there to the Saints. That's probably the stand that I'm going to take. And I hope that we see a script where Carolina wins, because I agree with you. For them to win this game, I think maybe you need they got to win the turnover battle. They got to be able to run the ball, unless just Bryce Young is the GOAT. I don't think he has the weapons, and he's just so young. I don't see him winning this game by himself at all right now. So I think that's – so what did you do on the Carolina side, Rubio?
I just bumped up Miles Sanders just slightly, and then I made these wide receivers more in play. Only 2 were projected above 6. I just read Chark is expected in, could be on a snap count. So I bumped all these guys just above the filter limit I had, which was set at 6.
In that base build that we ran, were we getting – what was our defense allocation? Actually, I think I also just ran it here on my own, because I know you're adjusting these. I don't want to mess yours up.
Right here. So we were getting the most of the Browns and Steelers, and then the Saints at 26, and then the Panthers at 11.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. So another thing that we could do is we could bump up the defenses in this game. Saints, Panthers as well. This slate is just going to be, it's going to be an interesting one. If you have a magic ball that's working for you, that you might have greater success doing that. But we'll see. Let's move on to the Browns Steelers. I actually have interest in this just because from a sheer target and distribution standpoint, we know what the Browns want to do. At least, they got Nick Chubb, one of the best running backs, obviously, in the league. Him versus Olave, I feel far more confident in Nick Chubb, but between those two. And that's just, my opinion. But Rubio, let's start with you again. How do you see, what's your take on the Browns-Steelers game?
Yes, Deontay Johnson and Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper set the minutes. Deontay Johnson is out. So I think you have very clear funnel of if you're talking about single entry and stuff, why would you want to fiddle with the Panthers, right? And then if you're doing large field stuff, you can get a little bit more funky with the Browns and Steelers, because you have a guy like Calvin Austin who's probably not going to come in too high owned. We can check his under 20% right now. I think a lot of people might gravitate to Pickens, who I'm going to be low on, but a guy I'm super high on. Actually, both these guys I am. Elijah Moore. He impressed all through training camp. I know his role doesn't necessarily get affected by Cooper being out, but I just think that he could get just a couple of bumps and targets. I think he's a very good player. I really think that, if anyone's going to get the biggest bump with him out, Elijah Moore is going to be the guy. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's going to get so many deep looks if they can hold time up for Watson. I'm bullish. So I said yesterday, I said Colorado was my favorite QB coming into the slate. Then after digging in more, like you said, we have a very clear like route tree, or basically a target tree for Deshaun Watson. It's more Peoples-Jones. If you want to make the case for one of these guys like Goodwin or Tillman, you can. And you have Njoku, and even Chubb had 4 catches last game. So like, I want the Browns to score, but I recognize this is an AFC North slugfest, and I don't know how viable it is to see like, oh man, Browns might score 21 points, which could be good enough on the slate. But yeah, there's always the capability that Steelers, like they have always done, own Cleveland and Pittsburgh.
I do like the Steelers. This is where kind of the overreactions come in. I think the Steelers week 1 was a popular bet. It was one I was on. Obviously, I was very wrong. The 49ers looked incredible, but this is now a spot where I think we're all just assuming that the Steelers suck, and I think they win tonight. I think they win outright. I like the side and the money line against the Browns, and I think they do it just. It's just going to be one of those games. Like, Najee Harris, I think he has more success tonight. I see him being the guy that gets overlooked. Obviously, there's question marks there. You got Jaylen Warren behind him. But stats, let's kick it to you. How do you see tonight's game playing out?
Yeah, I mean, you stole a little bit of my thunder. I like Pittsburgh in this game as well. I haven't bet it yet. Waiting on that line, just watching the line moves there. But eventually, I'm going to come in on the Pittsburgh side. This is one of those classic games that I like to bet. The team that coming off a blowout loss, looking bad against a team with a really good win, primetime game. So I'm hoping this gets bet up a little bit higher. I don't think it will. I didn't check on the sharp money yet on this game, but you hit on the guy I wanted to talk about, which was Harris as well, because Cleveland last year, one thing that they were terrible against was running backs. I'm just glancing at they were the 3rd worst against running backs last year on as far as points given up in fantasy. So I think Harris is a guy a lot of people are down on and maybe overlooking. He could be the guy. He scored in the 2 games last year against Cleveland. He scored in both of those games. Wasn't overly impressive. He had like 15, 16 points in each of those games, but on a 2-game slate, that might be enough to get you in the winner. So I think he gets in the end zone here tonight, and I think that's the guy that you don't want to overlook.
Yeah, really good comments there. This seems like a 3 running back slate, just with how these teams play. Not really a build path I like to go down, but that's more so for like main slates where I'm focused on four wide receiver builds. This does seem like set up to be a 3 running back one. I like Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's had a ton of success against the Steelers, 23 and 20 DK points last season. Najee Harris too has a floor of like 15 against the Browns. He has a ceiling. He's put up 32. So, I mean, obviously Harris can get it done against them too. And I do think Najee's the guy that goes overlooked. I agree with you 100% there, stats. The other thing too is just I like George Pickens. I think this is 7 targets last week, obviously underwhelmed. But again, I feel more confident in a guy like Pickens, and then even like more on the other side, like you said, Rubio, than I do the receivers in the earlier game. Outside like this, like Olave and Michael Thomas, like they're fine too. But I think we can get different by just hoping that the Saints have one of those tilting type of games, maybe a Taysom Vulture or a Kirkwood randomly gets. I mean, who knows? There's so many different things that can happen with a team like the Saints. They just historically have been extremely tilting. Whereas we have more defined and predictable distribution, in my opinion, in the Browns and Steelers with how these teams play, in my opinion. Rubio, back to you. Any kind of other comments on the Browns-Steelers game? And then I see you've been adjusting these too as we go, and we can rerun our builds.
Yeah, so I think it's like definitely when we were looking at the positional matchup chart, that's something that I absolutely love on the site through Statsational. Like when you got basically we obviously know the Jets defense really good against wide receivers, blah, 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 right? Titans really good against running backs. Like pulling that up, before every slate is big. And I did notice Cleveland Browns were one of the worst against running backs. And it did have me thinking, obviously that one split backfield, the one true split backfield, because I think Sanders and Hubbard is kind of split just a little bit. It is Harris and Warren. I mean, if you really want to get different on this slate, I mean, what's Jaylen Warren projected at? Under 20% here. Najee at 41%, and you'll see these other running backs come in at a very high ownership. I mean, they're all going to be above 50. So that is definitely one way to get like just a little bit of a pivot off the chalk field, and Warren's direct pivot leverage off Harris too. So yeah, I don't mind doing that at all, and I love Warren. I've drafted him a ton in best ball. He could easily be the one who breaks the run too. So that's like more of a large field play. Yeah, obviously if you're doing single entry, you want the Browns running game. Probably prefer Harris, but yeah, no, I think like that point.
One thing I would consider too is if you're playing Jaylen Warren, I would make a rule where you're probably playing Deshaun Watson and another piece, or Nick Chubb on the other side. So we don't like to play running backs against each other. You throw all of those kind of rules that people like to use for main slates out of the window on a 2-game slate, obviously. But like I see Jaylen Warren being more involved in a script where the Browns are get an early lead. And so you could pair him with Nick Chubb. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I just think if the Steelers get up, maybe they lean more on Najee because, Warren had what? 6 targets. Yeah, 5 receptions on 6 targets last week. But again, trailing script, game was over early in that one. I don't know. I feel less confident about Jaylen Warren, but I do think in large field tournaments, he's definitely in play. Rubio, do you have any thoughts on the receiving core on the Steelers side? You got Allen Robinson, obviously, George Pickens. The thing is all of these guys are super cheap, especially when you compare them, even on the Brown side too, just extremely, extremely cheap when you compare them to the Saints and Panthers. And again, you brought up salary early on. This is where we could get different. Like, this is what I was talking about, manipulating the projections there. I'm curious to see if we get any builds where you're leaving like 2K on the table or 3K on the table, just introducing some of these other receivers in the later game.
So my hot take, and this one can be clipped after he scores a touchdown in the first quarter because that's what they always do, right? George Pickens sucks. I don't like the game at all. I don't like how he can't create separation. I don't think Deontay Johnson being out is going to benefit him. It's going to benefit a guy like Calvin Austin. I think Allen Robinson had more targets last week. I think.
Who on our team loves George Pickens? There was a show. I think it was last week. I was listening to someone was just. Is it Bobby? Okay.
Bobby loves George Pickens.
Loves Pickens.
Sick after doing that. I'm like, oh my god.
I thought it was JSU at first, but I think JSU's a Chubb guy.
Loves Pickens. You're right.
JSU does too. Okay.
Yeah,
I can't wait to watch the Print Factory yesterday. And speaking of that, I think we have just one massive show going all the way up to lock. So starting with the Print Factory, then it goes into the Showdown show up to lock. But so yeah, Rubio doesn't like Pickens though. But continue on, Rubio, and then let's after you've adjusted this, let's rerun it just to see what this looks like.
Yeah, so this is reran. So this is where I have the exposure sheet over here. You'll notice when we just bumped up Najee, he was projected 12.5 or whatever, 12.5. Got him up to 15, and look at that, 78% Najee Harris, and this is with uniques at 3. Seems a bit aggressive, but I think it's a ton of 3 running back builds too because our top 4 owned are running backs. Let's check for the Steelers' sake how much Jaylen Warren we got. We got 11% Jaylen Warren as well. So yeah, you definitely get a lot of Steelers. I think wide receiver wise, we didn't even talk about Pat Freiermuth. Like, I think he's the top owned tight end here at 36%. I love Freiermuth too. I think he gets a direct bump with Deontay Johnson out. I think some of those quick hitter throws, like even just over the middle for the tight end, I think Pickett could look his way a little bit more as well. Yeah, you just see this distribution. Oh, great. I bumped up Pickens to 10 because we bumped down the Saints wide receivers. George Pickens is now our top owned wide receiver.
Nice. I like that. Some of those builds were interesting too, like the 47K right there. But again, not a bad build. I think that when you just look at this on the surface, the big thing there is, you're fading Olave. So again, it comes down to risk reward. What are you willing to give up? And then you're likely sweating, game script and then one player. Now, obviously, this is tournament builds. Stats. Let's go back over to you. Now, you've talked about bringing in uniques, and on a 2-game slate, how many uniques are you typically having, and kind of what's your goal, especially on a slate like this one when you're running 150? Because I think you've talked about it in a couple of these shows where you're trying to bring in a lot of good builds, and then you're also trying to bring in on paper some builds that are projected to be not as good.
Yeah, so I mean that's always the goal when you're playing in GPPs and you're mass entering them. So you want to have a pretty wide range, or at least that's my goal. I want to have a wide range of different type of lineups where if you did it right, you should have a bunch of lineups that are really bad, and you should hopefully have a bunch of lineups that are pretty good. So that's the goal if you're trying to win, which is what we're trying to do. I would be in a 2 or 3 unique max in for a 2-game slate. I think that's enough. There, you don't want to. I probably use more uniques than most people, but in 2 games it's tough. You don't want to go too crazy on the uniques. And again, you kind of pair that with how much of a randomization you're going to be using on your optimizer as well. So 2 or 3 on the uniques. If I go 3 unique, then I would want to make it a little bit more less. I would use less randomization, maybe less correlation. On that, so you can kind of play with it that way from a build standpoint. It's tricky with the 2 games, and like I said, I think one thing that if you could take away from it is just make sure you're playing at least one player against you allow for one player against the defense, one against the defense, or defense against one player, however you want to word it, because that is almost certainly. I've done a lot of testing. It's been a while. Did a lot of testing on 2-game slates and 3-game slates. This is back in the XFL when XFL was going, and that's a whole nother story of how I lost on kneel downs 100,000. But when I did that study, it was almost always you had at least one. One was actually optimal, but I like to throw 2 in there. You won't have a lot of 2s, but one player against the defense almost always hit. And I think on a slate like today, you'll probably see that. You probably see that happening just because of the low scoring. Yeah, I don't see a ton of offense here tonight. So that's just from a construction standpoint. That's how I'd go about it.
What about, all right, so you're running 150, you're targeting the Millie Maker, or I don't even know if they're running one yet tonight. I just assume they probably are. Individual percentages for players, is there, let's just say you're getting 93% Olave. Are you ever just capping that off, trying to get him under, or what are you doing when it comes to individual ownerships falling into your allocation of builds?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So I would say, I mean, there's no hard and fast rule, but in general, once a player gets up to that 80+% level, I almost like to go all in on that player, unless I've got a reason not to. Just because even if that player's not, once they get to like 75, 80%, even if they're not, they don't crush. Like even if he goes out and he gets 15, which is okay, the odds are pretty good he's going to be in the winning lineup. So, and that's with most sports. So once you get a player like that, and it'll happen on these short slates, I like to go all in as opposed to just a flat out fade. I think a flat out fade, you're just playing with you're playing with fire. So I'd rather just go all in, take that position off the table. Now, if I was making a 1 lineup build, okay. You want to go ahead and fade him. I got no problem with that. I actually like Thomas in this game, maybe better. But I try to throw my opinions on the game out the window, and I play everything from a more of a game theory strategic standpoint. So I'll take the same square that everybody else is going to take, and then I'll try to get different elsewhere in the lineups and see, because I would be it's going to be tough for Olave not to make the winning lineup just because he's going to be in so many lineups tonight.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, we talked about it last night on the Up to Lock show, which I think we had, like 7 people on the show last night. Rubio, you would have loved it. We were missing Rubio dimes with the sunglasses, but I talked about Tyreek Hill and how I was under on Tyreek Hill just because Belichick always loves to scheme him away. And it's not due to any individual, matchup type of thing. It's just how they play defense against him in their bracket coverage. And that's what we saw last night. But again, Hill was still optimal in the flex lineup. Now, I actually, in my one entry, I faded him in favor of Waddle. And I honestly, it was like third quarter, and I'm like, I'm in dead last place. I can go to bed. Doesn't really matter. I was, if we get a first down on that play, which I do think was a first down, I'm min cashing. I went from 0 to would have been hero. Would have felt pretty nice. But I faded Tyreek, just absolute galaxy brain move. But I had Waddle in there, and I ran a Ramondre captain script. And so the script I ran made a lot of sense. And if Tyreek doesn't get in the box, it's another thing because he was like 90% owned, 95% owned, and rightfully so. And so I think Olave, though, has a much greater chance of full on, not busting, but again, I could be dust immediately too if I go underweight on Olave if he catches a bomb right out of the gate. That is definitely in the realm of outcomes. So scary fade. I don't think you fade him. I think what you do is exactly what Stats said. You can lock him in if you feel confident with the spot, or I don't think it's a bad idea to just slightly under project them and be underweight the field, still have exposure to them, but you're diversifying that way as well. Rubio, we got a question in chat. Flex rules. This slate, kind of interesting. I think you can go a bunch of different ways. Main slates, I like 4 wide receivers. It's a wide receiver league. Tonight, we kind of throw that out of the window. Jetty asks, what do you do? Receiver, tight end, running back, percentages. What's your preference on tonight's slate?
I mean, I think you'll see here, if we just go to flex, that's the great thing about Saber. It is literally feeding me all running back. And it's really hard to get away from the running backs because they are all projected higher than the wide receiver and tight ends. Even the 4th running back, which is Najee Harris, the 3rd and 4th running backs are given almost 3 points higher than what we had Olave projected for at that time. So it's really hard to go wide receiver or tight end, especially when we have ample amount of salary. I didn't mind the double tight end build where you take the risk that like 2 of these guys has a touchdown, but might as well play a touchdown parlay at that point. But it is kind of fun though. I did fiddle with 2 tight end, but I think it's almost all three running back, and that's without even a rule set saying, "Oh, I have to have a running back in the flex." Just let the projections speak for themselves, and yeah, that's basically what it spoke was just 100% running back.
I like it. Stats, you have any thoughts on that for tonight's slate specifically? Wide receiver, tight end, running back. Are you looking to generate any type of certain percentage by position in that flex spot?
Yeah, I'm glad you guys brought that up. Because that's important too. Because on the main slate, yeah, you want to be kind of heavy on the wide receivers for that flex spot. But I think in these short slates like this, especially one like tonight, don't get yourself overly concerned with having to have a wide receiver in the flex tonight. It can easily go with running back, and the running back quite possibly is going to be the optimal here in the flex spot. So yes, don't change the optimizer to give you only wide receivers in the flex. Kind of let the optimizer do what it's going to do.
All right, very good. Let's do this. Let's end it by let's give our favorite play by position, and then pick each game, and then get out of here. Rubio, let's start with you. Favorite quarterback tonight? Only one. We'll make it fun.
Deshaun Watson.
I like it. Stats, favorite quarterback?
I'm going with Carr.
I like that. I'm going to go Deshaun Watson too. I like that game, and it matches my running back play, which is Najee Harris. Rubio, favorite running back play tonight?
Oh, I don't want to cheat and say Nick Chubb. You know what, Nick Chubb. I think.
Can't go wrong with him. Stats, favorite running back?
I'm going with Najee.
All right, Stats. I'll stick with you. Favorite receiver tonight?
Michael Thomas.
All right, very good. Rubio.
Elijah Moore.
I like that too. I'm gonna say I'm with Stats on Michael Thomas. So I'm just I'm probably gonna kick myself for being under on Olave. I mean, he's such a good receiver, but it is what it is. Tight end for me is Hayden Hurst. Rubio, favorite tight end?
Big Pat Freiermuth.
All right, Stats.
Yeah, tight end. Like I told you, I got the over on Johnson, but I like Freiermuth as well though to outscore him as far as fantasy.
Yeah, tight end's going to be in it. Like Juwan Johnson, is he the projected highest owned, or is it? It's probably just going to spread around, right?
Yeah, it's pretty spread around. Actually, it is Freiermuth, Njoku, Johnson, Hurst.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if I think on this slate I would go double tight end over 4 receiver. I don't know about you guys, but I can see these tight ends doing just fine tonight. Defense. Do you have a favorite defense, Rubio?
It depends on the build. I think I love what Stat said. I'm not afraid to put at least one guy against my defense. That's what my main team has right now. I'm going to go the Saints. Bryce Young, rookie quarterback, prime time. Doesn't show up.
All right, Stats. Favorite defense.
Yeah, obviously it'll depend on the build. And like in my mind, I was kind of building one as we were doing this, and it looks like the Steelers would be my defense right now. I don't have a lot of Browns players in that lineup.
All right, defense is just always so random, so much variance factoring into it. I think for me, if we lean on the Panthers win, I think they need to win the turnover battle, maybe even need like a defensive touchdown. And again, I like Carr too, but if you can get like a pick six out of the gate, you're absolutely mint and likely optimal at the defensive spot. So I'm going to say the Panthers, I think, will be a really contrarian play at the defensive spot. Again, I play 1 to 3 lineups, so a little bit different there. And I like taking stands like that. All right, Rubio, who do we got winning in the Saints-Panthers game? And then give me the Browns and Steelers. We'll go to stats, and we'll get out of here.
Saints and you want me to do both, right?
Yes, sir.
Saints, and then despite against better judgment, despite my family, having some Pittsburgh background, I'm going to take the Cleveland Browns in Pittsburgh because I'm an idiot.
Can't go wrong. Steelers looked pretty bad last week, but Stats, who do you got tonight? I think we're actually on the same page, so I feel pretty good.
I'm taking both dogs. Yeah, I've got Carolina and Pittsburgh tonight, so we'll see. I'm bullish on the Browns for the season, but that's gonna be a tough division, and I still like the Browns to win the division, but I'll take both dogs tonight.
Yeah, very good. I got the Panthers side money line. I like the Steelers as well. I like the over in the Browns-Steelers game. With that, hit the like button, hit the subscribe. We appreciate all of you watching. Again, we got an aggressive schedule today. The Print Factory going live. Rubio, do you know what time they're going live? Is it like 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock?
4 o'clock. Big T, JSU, and K-Fal giving away $333. He said you can use it for whatever you want as long as it's DFS and bets related. Got to be a member to win.
Awesome. Absolutely love to see it. We appreciate you, K-Fal. It's very generous of you. And again, he will notify the winners too. So it's good if you're watching the shows, but if you're not, because people are working, we got families, kids, etc., that is not going to matter. He has other criteria. If you remember, get into the Discord, go to the announcements, and read K-Fal's message there. With that, I'm AP for Rubio. For Stats, let's run beer.